Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journeys from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international bestselling author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 90 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. We want to welcome our newest listeners that have joined Life Transformation Radio in Oman, in Ukraine, Vietnam, Albania, and in Ghana. So I want to thank you, the listeners, for your support over the last 3 years. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here, we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing. We highlight that transformational moment that changed our lives and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, Tuesday through Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also join our Facebook group, Life Transformation Radio Community, where you can interact with the guests and interact with each other, talking about the topics we cover on Life Transformation Radio. And you can subscribe, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, Castbox, Himalaya app, the Google Play Music app, Pandora, and also available, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Life Transformation Radio. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, amazing human beings that are impacting the world around them. And my guest today has done exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, go ahead and give us a call at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. We always invite the listeners to become a part of our show by calling in and asking questions to the guests, and my team is standing by to field those questions. And with that, please help me welcome to the show my guest for today, Sherry Anshara. Sherry, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Thank you, Sean. I am just delighted to be here, and if there's one thing that I know is why I do it.
Outstanding. I'm super excited to have you on the show to talk about abundance and healing and wellness, especially during this COVID-19, this pandemic that we have going on, because a lot of people are not feeling like they're living an abundant life. A lot of people are not feeling like they're living a healthy, wealthy life. The gyms are closed. The normal places to go get food have reduced menus. A lot of people aren't feeling healthy, wealthy, and abundant right now.
I totally get it. But you know what? When people ask me if I'm afraid of the unknown, well, the truth is, if the known is working, now that's terrifying. But in the unknown, and we've had a lot of unknowns going on, but if we go within ourselves, that is actually a place of creativity. Now, Sean, I'm not going to get religious here, but it said in the beginning there was nothing. And we've been going through 5, 6, 2 months in our idea of nothing. But the part that we have inside of us is our cellular experiences that we can draw upon and look at other avenues that we can go, whether it's our professional or personal life, because it's one and the same. And fear, here's my little tidbit. Fear is lack of information. It is not false evidence, unless you're going to, put somebody up for murder charges, but it really is a lack of information. And that is one of the things we're being inundated, in the news media or whatever without judging it. But the information inside of you is key to making a shift or changes.
I love it. I think that's great that you pointed that out, that it's inside of us. And so as we dive in, we're going to talk about what that actually means inside of us. So the title of this episode is The Anshara Method of Accelerated Healing and Abundance with Sherry Anshara. She is an international bestselling author, professional speaker, former radio host of Conscious Healing, and contributing writer to national and international publications on the subject of the Anshara Method of Accelerated Healing and Abundance and Overall Wellness. Sherry utilizes her experience and expertise as a medical intuitive as the foundation of her groundbreaking work with Cellular Memory, which she calls the Anshara Method. Through this method, you access your cellular memories, which hold the root causes of your symptoms, whether mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, or financial. Sherry has created these systematic processes so you can rid yourself of unwanted limitations, restrictions, negative thought patterns, and toxic behaviors. Sherry guides you to heal at the cellular level so you enjoy health, wellness, and abundance in every area of your life. Her website is Sherry, Sherry, Anshara, Anshara.com. Her Facebook group, Conversations with Sherry Anshara, is right there in the show notes. I really want everyone listening to connect inside that Facebook group and then go ahead and friend request her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and her Twitter link is right there. Connect with her and let her know that you listened to her episode of Life Transformation Radio. Sherry, the first question I have to ask after reading that is why? Why do you do what you do?
And I'll tell you why. So out of a horrific accident with a broken neck and a broken back and a smashed head and a brain out of place, which they didn't know my brain was out of place. That was fabulous. I went from a very successful businesswoman, even, all right, you guys, you'll love it, sued for alimony. It was okay. and having to give up my airplane and everything. So through this experience, Sean, I lost everything. I mean, everything. And in 1997, I moved to Arizona. And so when I was going through this, I said, you know what? I'm going to move. And I'm going to move somewhere where I can feel the wealth. Now, this is not about money. This is the wealth consciousness. And so with my last $50 and didn't know anybody, I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona. Does that tell you that you have a lot of you-know-whats? And from
boy.
Whoa, wasn't that good? But what happened is in 1991, when I had this accident and my life changed, having life change experiences right now, that's why I know the unknown is a great place to be. And so when all of this started to change and I couldn't work the same, I couldn't do the same thing, and and of course the prognosis for me wasn't very good. And I thought, no, that can't be. There has to be something that our body knows. And that's when I started writing about cellular memory, because I noticed with this broken back and smashed head and all of that stuff that my body began to heal on the outside. But there were parts of me that were not healing on the inside. And that's when I made this connection that cellular memory is that clear, informative platform that tells you, because the nose knows how to be a nose and a toe knows how to be a toe, and you don't have to tell it to do anything, it just knows. And so when I wrote about it, of course I was patted on the head and said, okay, you'll be okay, take this pill. However, it was proven. So I actually wrote about cellular memory, and I'm not getting esoteric here, but from my own future for the future at that time. Does that make sense, Sean?
Absolutely, it does. Yep, absolutely.
Because they told me that my future was going to be a mess. And so as I began to connect, and though I was starting to lose everything, people started coming to me that I knew and some I didn't know. And they said, Sherry, you're different now. Could you help me? I said, no, let me get this straight. I've lost it all. My life is a mess, and you would like me to help you? They said, yes, because look what you've done with your body. And I thought, okay. So that became my why. Why would I like to support these people? Because I thought, well, if I can come out of this, anybody can come out of this. And so that was the propulsion mechanism, cellular memory, that is now a part of Key even supports. They have cellular memory in their muscles. But this is cellular memory at the very core of us, and that's all of our experiences, good, bad, or indifferent. So I teach people how to dump the ones that are not productive and keep the ones that are. And through that, wordology is your biology, and how to utilize your own language to support yourself emotionally and mentally and physically and spiritually and financially. And people say financially because what is the cost to us to get into fear that isn't really who we are?
I love this so much because since 2014, I've been teaching mental, physical, social, emotional, and spiritual resilience practices. And I love resilience. I love the domains of the mental, physical. I mean, again, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not certified in it. I mean, in certain things I am, like Myers-Briggs and 4 lenses and DISC and like all that stuff, but not like certifications like, I went to, I don't know, some college and, whatever. I'm certified as a trainer to teach resilience based off of the training that I've had from UPenn and the military has given me certifications and things. But the domains of resilience, which are mental, physical, social, spiritual, so line up with what you're talking about. And it's incredible that those are what you talk about as well in the, in the cellular memories and things like that. So I love everything about what you're talking about.
Oh, and I love what you're talking about. And the interesting part, I've worked with a lot of soldiers, really up into even to the colonel stages that had suffered from PTSD. And I said, you don't have to suffer. See, what I've discovered in this, and I do not have any certifications. Now, I created this methodology, and, it's like I always say Florence Nightingale. She didn't have a stethoscope or a microscope or anything, but she knew that if she cleaned up that operating theater, that more soldiers would live. And of course, now if you look what she created down the road, look at what has happened for nurses, and baby nurses, heart nurses, pediatrician nurses, all of that. And so, but that's what, and I read quantum physics books like crazy to figure this out. And some of the physicists that I've actually had in my class said, you've actually taken science in biology, in anatomy, in quantum physics, in metaphysics and practicality, and you put it all together because it makes sense. So, Sean, to me, if it didn't make sense, I don't know why we did it. And I was always asking questions. So I say to my clients, ask all the questions. I might not have your answers, but you do, and let's how we can put it all together. Let's put it together because if you're off on one, you're off on all of them because that's the connection inside you.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with that. What I want to dive into and is the purpose, the core promise of the show is we all go through transformations. And some of the greatest gifts that we've been given happen out of transformation. It happens out of that. For example, you said you were busted up and needed to heal, right?
Yeah.
So what that says to me is what was born from that, what was born out of that moment, whether it was, car accident or whatever, right? What gets born out of these are these methods, these methodologies. the Make-A-Wish Foundation was born because one young boy's wish was granted, and it moved an entire community. And then the Mothers Against Drunk Driving was made because somebody, their child was killed by a drunk driver. And so we go through these moments of transformation that birth beautiful movements. So I'm asking you, what is your transformational moment that has changed your life and put you on the path to what you're doing today?
In that 1991, when I was 15 feet underwater, upside down in the Connecticut River in a drunk person's car that wasn't even in there because I was trying to help. But now I learned it's better to assist. And because of that experience, I said, you know what? We didn't come here to die in a terrible way. We really came here to live. And so I've actually written 5 books, and I'm working on a 6th one on DNA. And I actually have put in this book a warning. Please don't read this book, because if you're going to ask me to prove it, I can't. I just know that it is. Just when I couldn't prove about cellular memory, and then it came to pass because of the transplant, or my own experience of having these physical issues. But you know what? People said, wouldn't that make you sad? No, actually, it made me joyful. If I could do this for myself, and I could find a way to organize this information and teach other people how to do it for themselves, or, my focus down the road is to teach people to be facilitators or train the trainers. That's my focus. So I'm going to go back to what you said, like we are stuck in this issue. Well, I was going to be stuck in my body. And I thought, no, I'm not going to be stuck in my body. And I'm not going to be stuck in my house at this time. I'm not going to do that. Fortunately, I can work with clients over the phone. But guess what I did? I started co-authoring a book with some gal I met a year and a half ago at a conference, synergistically, right? I wasn't supposed to be there, and neither was she. And we sat next to each other, and we kept in touch. And I'm also writing this other book. I'm actually creating a couple of courses that I might be doing in July or August. So I said, you know what? This was just like my accident in a way, when I was stuck in my house, but I wasn't stuck. So just know that all of the listeners out here, you don't have to be stuck, because inside you is that brilliance of your creativity, just like the person that came up with the idea of Make-A-Wish or Marie Montessori. Children, there was no childhood until Marie Montessori happened at the turn of the century. So all of you can be paradigm shifters within your own self. You might have an idea, or you might have come up with a great idea that might change what is happening right now.
Amazing. Now you said Maria Montessori. Are you talking about the Italian lady?
Yes. Yes.
I know she did something. They have a theory named after her. It's a philosophy about
teaching children.
That's what a P.
Yeah. She did about teaching children in the Montessori school methods. But you see, there was no idea. I'm a historian. I tell you, Sean, I am a historian. And sometimes it's hysterical. I mean, right from the get-go as a little gal. And I'll just share this really quick. When I was little, I raised my hand, and the history teacher said Columbus discovered America. So I raised my hand, and this is profound to me now in my practice and what. And he said, you know what, Sherry? I said, well, if Columbus discovered America, how come people were living here? And he looked at me and he said, Sherry, just memorize it and pass the test. When he said memorize it, it stuck in me. And that put me on a path. I became friends, and I was a nerd. I was kind of like a popular, whatever. But I said, that doesn't make any sense. Memorize it. And that's what we do in here. Cellular memorization, to be afraid of yourself. And there's the difference. And that's what I assist people to do. Let's get rid of the memorization, because it's based on belief systems, not judging it. What's the first letter of the word belief? B. First letter of the word system, S, and put it together. So there you have it.
There you go. And my interpretation, of memorizing it is my biggest problem with the schools, right? Because they have the pedagogy. That's what I was thinking of earlier. Here it comes, pedagogy. So Montessori, and she was teaching a method of pedagogy. Anyway, I just thought of that. So as I'm saying this, in schools, they want you to memorize things because, in my opinion, whether it be brainwashed or some of the books are teaching you the way that they want you to learn it. And there's a lot of things that we learned in school that are just, it's just not right. It's just wrong.
Oh, Sean, we are so
wrong.
on the same page. We are so on the same page. I'm not kidding you.
I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Can I give you an example?
Please. I love it.
My kids are learning history, and they're learning about Abraham Lincoln. Well, we went to Washington, D.C., and we went to the Lincoln Memorial, and, we saw the Gettysburg Address and, all that. And I asked them, I said, did they teach you anything about the Gettysburg Address? And as they were talking about the Gettysburg Address, they never mentioned some of the key points about the Gettysburg Address that I know. For example, the Secretary of State at the time was Edward Everett, and he spoke for 2 hours. Lincoln wasn't even supposed to, number one, be there, but he decided to go. Number two, it wasn't even his event. He spoke for like 2 minutes and was known as the greatest speech ever written. But they taught us in school about this event that was going on at Gettysburg and how Lincoln came there and did, and they had him listed, according to them today, as not a Republican. They had him listed as something else. I was like, no, Lincoln's this. So they cut out all of the most important pieces and just said Lincoln's Gettysburg Address is one of the most famous, speeches, and and it's just one thing that sticks out amongst the many in science and English and social studies and of what they're teaching the kids. And I'm like, well, what about this? Like, I thought this other stuff was more important because when I was in school in the 80s and 90s, this was what we talked about, not whatever your guys are talking about now.
We'll have to have other conversations. I'm so with you on this. I can't even tell you that we are taught what I call true, but it isn't the truth. And I mean, I can go back to Samaria, I can go back to Rome, or I can go back to Greece and bring it through up because I was just insatiable in my appetite to find out what's really going on here. And I asked, well, if Columbus discovered America, what happened before that? Why was it in the 12th century? But he obviously wasn't born. But I would always get, Sherry, why do you ask these questions? And I would say to myself inside, well, you just memorized what you're teaching me to memorize.
Yep. And they stick to only that. So, yep.
Yeah.
And then you brought up another point I want to touch on before we move on, is transplant. And then you said after that, because I remember hearing the word transplant, but then you said that if you want to be proven that you cannot actually prove cellular memory or your method or what have you, but I 100% disagree. It's already been proven.
Yes.
Because, and not only your method, but the method, or actually the understanding of cellular memory. And how it's been proven is that people who have gotten heart transplants now have different tastes in food. They have memories of beaches they've never even been to. They have memories of people they've never even met. And it's from the other person's body that those memories have come from. Their behavior changes, the appetite changes, the likes and dislikes changes, the way that they operate change. And so I think it's absolutely incredible that this has taken place, and that that you have taken this on, this cellular memory, this method. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. Since 1991. Well, wait till you read my book DNA when I get that when I get that completed, because I have actually a friend of mine who is a biochemical engineer. She is brilliant, and she's actually been editing it. I write it and then whatever. And she just said, Sherry, I'm a biochemical engineer. She said this is absolutely brilliant how you put it together. So really, I would say probably one of my skills is to assist people to put together their whys, because one of my little Sherryisms, I say you can't change the what, the circumstance, until you get to the why, because at the why is the fork in the road. Am I going to go this way, or am I going to continue down a path that isn't serving me? And I actually put out an article in a famous pediatrician. She's globally known, Dr. Mahiri, and she asked me to write an article because she knows I've been in delivery rooms and I've worked, babies through their, 9 months. And I wrote this article, Baby's First Connection. I'm getting ready to put it out in my newsletter next Monday. And that was a couple years ago, because I thought it was so poignant now that the minute the sperm hits the egg, we're in. And we start having memory or memorization. And my clients have remembered the experiences, better and different.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that cool?
Yep. Oh, yeah, I agree, 100%. So let's talk about more. I want to go a little bit more in depth and really hone in on that transformative moment for you. You said back in 1991, you had gone through that moment of transformation. What really sticks out for you that you've held on to through the years and said, this is the moment, this is my transformational moment? Because I feel like some people go through these moments, or they repeat these moments over and over again throughout years of their life, never really understanding that was your moment. Like that was the moment that you were supposed to change, but you didn't change. So now you're repeating the same moment. Every couple of years you go back to this moment. So what sticks out for you from your transformational moment?
I will tell you, it happened with a little 3-year-old girl. When I was in Connecticut in the hospital, and I was in a room with a lady that had MS, and she was, in there quite a bit. And this is no joke. So I am one day after the accident. My face is swelled up. My head is smashed. I looked horrible. My appearance was horrible. But inside, I felt something inside that was happening to me that I didn't have words for, and I couldn't explain it. And so this man brings this little girl in. This is the mother's in the bed next to me. And this little girl starts to walk in. She turns and looks at me and climbs in my bed with me and hugs me and said, I love you. I could think about it. And I thought, her mother looked normal, those had S, but I'm a mess. I looked like I had been beaten up, and I was, in this car accident and upside down. And yet, and her parents were stunned. And she didn't want to let go of me. And when he brought her every day, she would come to me, not her mother. Dad, I said, something is going on here that I don't see yet, except when I look in the mirror, I look pretty ugly and beaten up. But she sees something, that little 3-year-old, that I didn't see. But I knew a transformation had occurred. And you want to know something, Sean? I've never shared that with anybody.
Wow. Well, we appreciate you sharing it with us, for sure. So how have you taken your transformational moment and used it to elevate the world around you?
Assisting people to know their worth and value. That this is one of the things, that they are worthy and they have worth. That they're valuable and they have value. And when someone that I've worked with has let go of stage 4 cancer, really, I've actually published 4 times in the medical journal, the American Holistic Nurses Journal Beginnings. Or when someone gets off the meds, or someone came out of a coma, There are no words. I cannot describe it. And people have given me testimonials and they've thanked me. But you know what? There really are no words to describe that feeling heart to heart, not being woo-woo here, but that connection. Or when I've worked with a soldier that was really in the throngs of it. Because you're in the military, maybe I'll send you a video that this guy said, he did for me. And he said, we don't have to live with it. It was so amazing. And that was probably 10 years ago or 12 years ago. I just knew that I would be on purpose, with purpose, for the purpose of not healing people, but to support them to heal themselves and figure it out. Does this work or does this work? If this doesn't work, there's no point in hanging on to it. And so that's when I came out with Wordology is Your Biology. When I came out with NEO, that's my first tool, non-emotional observer. And that's quantum physics in action. When we begin to observe, but we have to observe ourselves first. That's the icky part. First, what do you mean? And then I teach, what do you mean? And then I teach profiles, behaviors, and roles. How do we keep attracting? And I said, Britney Spears said it the best way. Oops, I did it again. And so, isn't that a good one?
That's funny. That's
and
funny.
So we don't have to do something again and again. But what we can do is recognize it and make a choice instead of an emotional decision, but make a choice. You know what? A choice is I can choose to change something, and then I can do it, and then I can choose something else. That is what we are not shown, that we can choose all kinds of stuff, that we're not stuck in, a profession or stuck in a way or stuck in anything. Stuck in the program that says, how about you've made your bed, you have to lie in it. And one day I said, you know what? There's all kinds of beds. There's cots. There's, king beds, super king beds. There's, twin beds. There's, the dog beds, the kitty beds. There's, what do you mean you have to, that's your bed, you have to sleep in it? What? Are you still in a crib? Actually, can I share a funny story?
Yeah.
Do I have time? Okay, this will make you laugh.
Yeah.
This wonderful professional businesswoman comes to me, and she's probably in her late 40s or 50s, and she's got her head, and so one of my clients, her friend recommended her. And so I have a weird sense of humor because it's the best medicine. So she walked in with her arms crossed, and she's like really rigid, and she's looking at me, and I'm going, I wonder why she's here. And so she says to me, I've never changed, never. And I thought, great. So I said, okay, I'm going to use the sales Socratic method. And I go, so let me get this straight, repeating it back to her, which I never do. And I go, so you've never changed? She said, yes, I've never changed. I go, okay. I said, my dear, I am so excited you're here. And I have to tell you, I'm much more impressed with your mother's vajayjay. Because if you came out with that hairstyle, that suit, and those heels, your mother's vajayjay rocks. And my dear, you're somewhere between diapers and Depends and underwear. Have you not changed? And she burst out laughing, and her arms relaxed, and she goes, well, that was pretty stupid. I said, no, but it was interesting. She goes, you know why I'm here? I go, I have an idea. What is it? I'm an intuitive. She goes, because I don't want to change. And I go, change is fabulous. It's growth, but we have been taught that change is painful. Well, it's not. It's growth. And you don't have to grow up.
Sure.
We can grow in all directions, but please don't grow up. That's too boring.
Right. Sure.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. So change and failure are two things that people willingly will never do on their own.
Exactly.
There's always a moment. I don't care what anybody says. 100% proven. 100%. I mean, it's proven scientifically, emotionally, spiritually. Proven. People will not change. If there's a job, like people in the military, right? Perfect example. People in the military, PCS, which is a permanent change of station, and what happens is they say, hey, you got orders somewhere else. And they're like, sometimes they'll say, oh, it's to Hawaii? Sweet. Yes, go to Hawaii. Either way, that wears off. because now the realization sets in that goes, oh my gosh, I'm leaving a lot of friends. Oh my gosh, I'm leaving a good unit. Oh my gosh, my wife, if they got wife and kids. Oh my gosh, my kids are going to leave their school. Like, oh my gosh. So there's never that I'm aware of 100% situation where they go, yes, I can't wait to leave. Oh my God, this is going to be amazing. There's on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, there's something connected to every single place you've ever lived. Now, I've lived in some pretty austere locations, and even then, especially I was stationed, I was deployed to the Middle East, and I was like, man, I can't wait to get out of here. Like, oh my God, please get me off this rock. Even when I was leaving, even when I was out the door, I was still emotionally connected to the men and women that I was serving with. Yeah. So it wasn't like I wanted to stay, but it was like, oh my gosh, I feel guilty because I'm leaving and you have to stay there. Or it's my time to rotate, and you just got here. I'm going to pray for you. Like, I'm really sorry that you're here, and I feel bad. Like, there's always like an emotional, moment that says like, man, I can't believe I'm leaving, and I spent 6 months here or a year here. A piece of me is here. I can't wait to leave, but you're still going to remember all of that stuff there. So, like I said, no matter where you live, no matter what you do, there's always going to be these memories. And I like that you talk about it on a cellular level as well, because your method specifically talks about how you can access those cellular memories. So let's talk about that real quick before we end the show. I want to get into your method. So can you give us a synopsis or quickly talk about what is the Anshara method?
Okay, within 10 minutes or less, believe it or not, in your cellular memory, the clearness of it, you can connect to that within 10 minutes or less. You can. It doesn't mean you have the total solution, but you now begin to have a resolution that this is really happening as that key of Neo, non-emotional observer. So I've worked with people that were horrifically sexually abused and physically abused as children. And so they attempted to heal it through their computer brain, left brain. This is not a judgment. But it really happened to their bodies. So their bodies were impacted. And so through this Anshara method that I created, that within 10 minutes or less, you can connect. And I have a specific, very specific methodology that within that 10 minutes that someone can arrive there without reliving it. Much like PTSD, you keep reliving it, whatever that experience is. And so in this, they're able to see everybody's participation. And that creates that platform now, that conscious platform to say, you know what, that time has passed. I even teach people about time. So when we're in that PTSD or we're in that emotional experience, your computer brain, honestly, Sean, does not know what time it is. It will be 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 5 days ago. And we get caught up and we cannot see it clearly because of all the molecules of emotion that are thick, snotty, gelatinous, goopy, sticky. And that's why when someone will say, I feel lighter, and they actually do. And I'm going to throw this out here, if you don't mind. I'm looking for an engineer scientist to assist me to create a scale. You get on the scale, you lost 5 pounds or you gained 10 pounds. But in my sessions, there will actually be releases, and you will hear it, even over the phone. Hits the ceiling, hit the wall. And that's a physical release. But through my experiences of these near-death experiences, I am able to see that. Even when I was 3 years old, I would tell my mother about the lights around people and that some were bright and some were dim, even at 3. So in that methodology, that's when the aha moment happens. Now you can get out of that victim mode. And I work with people in all walks of life, all ages and stages. And you know what? It always works. I'm not claiming I'm healing them. I'm giving the opportunity through that to be able to connect. And I will say this to your listening audience. When there is pain in the body, pain is the body's attempt to get your attention. But we mask it. I'm not wrong with drugs. We take aspirins or Tylenol and very toxic. Sure. But then the pain gets worse and the pain gets worse. So I never took any pain pills. I never did. I said,
Yep.
I'm going to figure this out.
Wow. Yeah, that's so very true. So it's not just headaches, but if we talk about gut health, and I just remember this because I went through a situation where I was fine 1 minute, and then I was hitting the ground the next minute, and it was very, very painful, and nobody could figure out why. I had all kinds of tests. I had a colonoscopy, I had a endoscopy, I had all of these tests. I was injected with radiation, and then they put me through a machine that watches the radiation go through, and they said that your gallbladder is fine, and your liver is fine, and your pancreas is fine. Like, we could never figure out what's going on. I had all these tests, and they would find well, maybe that could be it because that looks a little, oblong, or, well, maybe that could be it. And they said, well, maybe it's just IBS, or maybe it's just, all these one things. And I was like, no, something's there, something's wrong. And somebody else that I was talking to, I don't know, they call themselves a medical intuitive, but they were like, well, are you holding on to any stress? I said, well, I'm not holding on to stress. I'm a resilience trainer. Like, I know how to deal with stress. Like, no, like, are you holding on to anything, like, emotionally? I said, I don't know. I got a couple, I got a report about this. I got orders here. It's just, like, life was happening to me, and I was getting pulled in a lot of different directions. I said, well, have you considered letting go of something? What do you mean letting go? Like, I don't understand, like, letting go. And so we did some work, and then in talking with them and almost like a therapy session, they said, well, maybe you should let this go. Maybe you should stop worrying about it. Maybe you should stop stressing yourself out about it. Maybe, and they gave me some tips that maybe I should try to do. So ever since then, I've been meditating, and I've been, so I got into Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning. So I do the Miracle Morning, which is like visualizations and scribing and reading and like energy stuff. You're really like calming your mind and calming your body and like all that. And so I try to do that every day, and guess what? Pain's gone.
Yes.
Of course, I told everybody that I blamed it on the medication that they gave me, but I believe it was from, and I've never had any pain since.
Yes.
I've never had any pain.
All disease are based on emotions. It doesn't, and I'm not being trite here, but depression is deepest disappointment. Anxiety is unrealistic expectations. Cancer is eating ourselves up alive. IBS is IBS myself. That because you cannot digest the food of consciousness that I call give us this day our daily
That's
bread.
funny.
It's not beer and pizza or wine and caviar. It's when someone comes to me, whether it's over the phone or over Zoom or whether it's in person, and I have them fill out an intake sheet, and they'll say, well, I've been diagnosed with this. And my first question to them is, when did it start? Oh, no, I've just been diagnosed. No. And that is the brilliance of cellular memory, because you will get to the point before the memorization of the emotional trauma that created the disease in the first place. And the body is the intelligence and intellect. The left brain isn't. I've actually have charts I've developed, and I have a naturopath that uses my charts for her patients because,
Wow.
So I've got energetic charts. I've got charts of how the male and the female, this is not gender work. It's so cool. And I'm so excited to know all the wonderful things you're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's same to you. You're doing amazing. So we have to end the show. Let's give the listeners a takeaway. What is the one message, or what is the one thing that you could give somebody that will take them, that they could take away from the show and take them to the next level?
Looking at your own personal language, and I have a Sherryism. What I say makes my day, and what I say could make or break somebody else's day, because that's the power of words, or that can be the control of words. And I live by this. The minute I get up every morning, I say it.
Love it. What you say can make your day.
Yeah.
So it's like affirmation. It's like having an affirmation power.
And it's even more so. And if you go to my website, sherryanshara.com, I have a 10-minute complimentary session, and you can download my free ebook called Getting Your Answers in 10 Minutes. And it really is. I'd love to work with you all, because you know what? Inside
there you go.
connection, we are human.
I love that so much. Wow, Sherry, this has absolutely been incredible and amazing. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. This is amazing.
Yes, and I would love to keep in touch because I've had a lot of experiences not being in the military, but having friends. I've actually refueled a B-52 from a KC-135.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
And spoke
so
at the
cool.
Pentagon.
So cool.
Definitely. And I volunteered at a military museum in Michigan, and I loved it.
Oh, I love it. I'm from Michigan, so my mom lives up near Port Huron, and my rest of my family lives down towards Detroit.
Yeah, that's right, in the Detroit area. You know what? I just had a meeting early this morning with someone that does some work, and we were both from Michigan, and he lived in the town next to me. Isn't that funny? And this is today. I'm from Michigan.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome. I love it. So many similarities. Awesome. Sherry, thank you so much for coming on the show and being an amazing guest. This has been an absolutely great conversation, and I just want to thank you so much for what you're offering to the world.
Well, thank you so much, but thank you for changing people's lives by who you are and the guest you're having. And so I'm very grateful to be a guest on your show. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest elevating the world around her in a very unique and amazing way. If our conversation today with Sherry Anshara has somehow brought something forward in you, please go to her website, Sherry Anshara, SherryAnshara. It's right there in the show notes. Connect with her at SherryAnshara.com. Go check out her resources. Go check out her videos on her YouTube. Connect with her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Her links are right there in the show notes. Let her know that you listened to her episode of Life Transformation Radio. And with that, I close the show by saying, live your brand. Living your brand means to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live a great life.